Oh, hello everybody. This is Mill Creek Range, and I'm Benji, your host. Today I wanted to bring about a topic I've been dealing with one of my guns. That's a topic, it's just a issue, okay? Took my Winchester Model 1873. This here is the one that is 144-year-old. It was manufactured in 1879. Some of y'all seen the videos on them or on this one. If not, go and check it out or check them. I think there may be a couple of them. One going over the kind of the origins of the gun when I got it, and then it just celebrated being 144 years old back in August. And I actually done the video first part of September due to the heat here in the Great South in Alabama. But what I want to talk about this gun is it's inconsistent hitting the target, okay? So when I first got this gun, one of the first things I did was I slugged the barrel. I needed to know what type of condition the barrel was in, and it slugged out. It's to be 0.433 inches. Now, this is a 5-groove barrel. It's a first generation barrel. Now, the Winchester 73s, they change generations or models or from Gen 1 to Gen 2 sometime in the middle part of 79. So this gun actually has some parts from the first models, and then also has parts from the second models. The receiver is a second model, the barrel is a first model, and so is the magazine tube a first model. But getting back into the issue, bore slugged out at 0.433 inches, and after talking to a few experts in the field on a forum called Cast Bullets, BOOLITS, it was determined that a lot of the Model 73s back in that time frame, the bores was not consistent. So if you look at the specifications for a Winchester Model 1873 in 44 WCF, it's a 0.428 or 0.427. I have some bullets here for 4440 that is 0.428, and then I have some other ones that are actually 0.427. But they said that they wasn't consistent on the bore sizes because of the machining and again getting the numbers out. So, but that didn't really pose a big problem because the lead that was used for casting the bullets was pretty much pure lead, and with black powder, because that was all that they had. Actually, black powder wasn't called black powder back in those days. It was called gunpowder. When the adventation of smokeless powder come about, then they had to sort of change the name from gunpowder to black powder. But anyway, getting off track. With black powder, since it is a explosive, and with that sudden charge or blast, with that softer lead, you get a expansion of the rear portion of the bullet to fill and seal to the imperfections inside of the barrel, being the oversized bore, so that you can bullet can grab a hold of the grooves and go along with the twist and come out of the barrel stabilized and hit target. Now, with that being said, they wasn't all perfect because if you remember, they had Winchester put out 1 of 100s and 1 of 1000s. The 1 of 1000s was the best. They had the most precise barrel. They was the most consistently with hitting point of aim, and the others was kind of so marginal. I know this one here is not a 1 of 100 and definitely not a 1 of 1000. It's just a standard old model. But so all of the time that I've had this gun, and doing shooting with it. Of course, I spent probably 2 to 3 years before I really got to really even shoot that much, because one, I wasn't casting bullets at that time. I was researching it. Two, the bullets I was getting cost an arm and a leg at that time. And now this was just the projectiles. I've always loaded my own rounds for this gun, talking just projectiles. And then I was looking for the perfect projectile for this firearm to give me the best consistent hits. Because I would love to hunt deer, white-tailed deer, with this rifle one day. I was really hoping to do it this season, which starts middle of November 2023 and runs on through toward the middle of February of 2024 here inside of this part of Alabama. And I really would like to take a white-tailed deer with it. But so all of the time that I've had the gun and doing shooting, I've been pretty much doing close range shooting, 20, 25 yards on steel plates mostly. Steel plates mostly. Never really took it out to, like, say 50 yards or 100 yards. Now I could hit a steel plate at 100 yards with it, done it several times, but shot placement really wasn't looked at. Okay, I just knew I was hitting the steel, and these, were pretty much consistent plates that are probably 12, 14 inches wide, maybe by 20, 24 inches tall. So you had a lot of real estate there to hit. So getting back to topic again, the other day I loaded up about 40 rounds of my big lube groove bullet, which was designed by a gentleman by the name of John Kort. He's since passed on. He was a member of the Cast Bullets forum, and he was very, I'll say, exponential in, he knew a lot about the 73s. He's actually got I'll post a link onto the video if I can. I'm kind of new to all this, but he's got one. It's My Black Powder Journey, and he's talking about shooting black powder in one of his old Model 73s in 44 WCF, and along with another gentleman, which I think is one of the owner of Accurate Molds. They developed this mold, which is 43-215C. It goes along the same contours of the original bullet that Winchester used, but it's got a deep and a wide lube groove band to carry a lot of lube, so it reduces your fouling inside of your barrel. Works extremely well, but what I found in my shooting this past weekend was at 60 yards, which I was about between 50 and 60 yards. I didn't measure it off, but I was a little over halfway down my 100-yard range, which where I will or would be hunting. 50-yard shots probably about as best as I'm really going to get. So it really wasn't no sense in going full 100 yards. So at about 50 to 60 yards, with that bullet, I was on a cardboard sample about this size, which is one of Home Depot's large boxes, cut in two, so I got two pieces to use. I was all over the place. Now I had 2 orange dots placed on it. I didn't take any pictures because it was embarrassing. Several of my shots didn't even hit paper. They were off. They were either to the right, I seen dirt fly up to the right, and I seen dirt fly up to the left. So I started suspecting I had issues. And I did. Some of the first holes that I hit on the paper or on the cardboard didn't seem to be fully round. They seemed to be a little oblong. Well, then about after maybe 10 or so shots, I started noticing, I had some bullets in there going sideways, literally keyholing. So I knew there I had major problem with those with that bullet in this gun at that distance. Now, I was running a charge of 40 grains of 2F Swiss. I take that back. No. Yeah, 3F Swiss. I'm sorry. This here's the bottle. That's the last of the Swiss I've got, which is maybe enough to load 4 or 5 rounds. I got to order some more black powder. I had been using old Insford from GoX, 2F. I maybe got a third, not even a third, like a quarter of a pound of that left. Then I've got a brand new bottle of 3F, and that's going to be it for the old Insford. But I loaded these up with 40 grains of 3F Swiss. When I went to clean the barrel, it took forever to clean it. Wasn't so much the fouling, I think it was leading. I'm not a expert, but my patches were dirty for the longest. Got in there with a copper brush, cleaned it really well, and that really helped. Probably after that, maybe took 3 or 4 patches to come out relatively clean. I'll say they wasn't perfectly clean, but they were, in my book, clean enough for what I was doing. So I swapped over to my next bullet, which was a original Winchester bullet from a Winchester mold, and that is from this mold right here. And I'm throwing a picture up in here of the 3 bullets that I used. So this in here was cast from this original Winchester mold, and it drops them at about 215 grain with pure lead at I sized them to .429. The Big Lube bullet, they drop at about 222 grain, and then again I size them to .429. Going to .430, I start getting issues. One, getting the bullet into the case mouth of the 44 WCF cartridge, and 2, when I do get it in there and get it seated, it's a little bit of problematic getting the lever to close. So it's a little tight on the bore inside of the rifle. So 429, they slip right in, no problem. So that's the issue there I'm having, is trying to run a oversized bullet. You get into issues with the bullet going into the breech. So the third bullet, so that day, that was Sunday, didn't have good success at all. But I had another bullet that I had tried basically the first time loading for this rifle, which is a bullet that I acquired from Buffalo Arms Company, which is their 222 grain hollow base bullet. And again, picture will be here. I'll put all three bullets inside of a picture with the size and the grain. And this bullet, it's hollow base. So, and it's the lead is a 20-to-1 ratio. So it's a little bit harder than pure lead. And it's got the hollow base, which now with the black powder really gives you the expansion on the rear portion of the bullet to expand and seal to that barrel. So I loaded up 10 rounds of the hollow base bullets in this gun and took them out Monday during a break from the office. And I put up another piece of smaller cardboard over the original piece, and I'll put a picture up of it. And they were kind of in the beginning, a little to the right, a little to the left, but my bench that I have to shoot from, I'll say, is not the best. So holding steady may not have been the best, but I did make round holes on all 10 shots. I hit paper, and they made perfectly round holes. And 3 of the shots were relatively grouped, I'll say tight together for what that they was. I was really looking at, first I had to move my elevation. I had to move my elevation down. I was shooting a little high, so I was able to move my elevation down to accommodate for that. And really wasn't sure on the windage, so I didn't want to start moving my rear sight left or right until I really knew that this bullet was working good. So I'm actually going to order me a Caldwell lead sled, something I can anchor this rifle down into, hold it nice and secure, and get a much more accurate shot so I can see exactly what the shot placement is, and then from there then I can move windage and elevation as needed. But the other thing is these bullets are rather expensive, and I have yet to find a mold for this particular bullet. Now, I've got some companies that I need to reach out to that do hollow base bullets. So I hope to do that later on this week. Reach out to some, see who can do a hollow base mold, which is, you know, for this gun, and then go from there. My other option, and I would like to be able to shoot any bullet, okay? And my other option is to have the barrel relined. Now, this gun is 144 years old. I don't plan on ever selling it. So, yes, it does have some monetary value, but in my eyes right now, I see me not parting with this gun. Once I'm gone, it'll be handed down to one of my children. I've got a son and 2 daughters, and they can fight over it. I'll leave them plenty other ones to mull over. But you know, I don't know a lot about lining a barrel. So I've done a little bit of reading on it. Majority that I've seen, they glue them in, which then on down the road, that glue can break down, and then your liner begins to fall out of the barrel when that you shoot it. Not good. I've heard others that they're welded in. They're welded into the front and into the back, and with those, when they're welded in, they're much harder to distinguish or tell that the barrel's actually been relined. The other problem with lining the barrel is, remember, this is it's a 5 groove barrel. So most of your liners out there is for 6 grooves. I really want to stay with the 5 groove if I can. Now, I did find a barrel liner on Track of the Wolf, but it's for a Henry in 4440. I think it's 1 in 24 twist. It says the bore is .420, and the interior barrel is .429. I'm sorry, .428. So I've reached out to a gentleman to see if that liner would work in this gun. Now, I reached out to Mr. Mark Douglas from the Cinnabar. I don't know how many of you watch his YouTube page. He's a wealth of knowledge. I recommend you to go like his page, subscribe to his page, watch his videos, especially the videos on the Model 73s. Wealth of knowledge. Only problem is Mark does not reline barrels. He does a lot of other stuff, but he does not reline the barrel. So he sent me to a gentleman over inside of Idaho by the name of John. I can't think of John's last name, but I reached out to him, and I'm talking to him right now about possibility of the prospect of sending this rifle to him to put a liner inside of the barrel. But I'm kind of on the fence. Do I not? What all's involved? So I want to be a little bit more educated on the process before I go off and do something to this old rifle that later on I regret doing. So I really would like to see how consistent I can get of a grouping using this hollow base bullet or a hollow base bullet that I cast myself. I would rather cast. Problem though is the lead I'm currently using is pretty much a pure lead, and I think pushing these rounds at 1200 feet plus per second, I'm getting a good amount of leading in the barrel. So I'm going to either look at slowing that down by probably going down to either 30 or 35 grains and seeing what that does, or getting the correct alloys and take the lead that I currently have, realloy it into more of a 20-to-1 lead. Or I'll just go to the company Roto Metals and buy their 20-to-1 lead and just start out that way and cast up some bullets and see how those perform. So anyway, just sort of want to just make a quick, I know it's been a little long. I'll try to shorten it down as much as possible. Probably won't be able to. But just want to sort of give you a little update. And if you have any suggestions, I'm open, okay? Have any suggestions if you know someone that works on these guns, or if you know someone that's capable of lining one of these barrels or has had liners done. I'd like some more ins and outs, pros and cons of the lining of the barrel on an antique gun. I know that it will depreciate the gun's value, but I'm not overly concerned about that because, again, unless I get into a big financial crisis, I don't plan on parting with this rifle anytime soon or if ever. So that's what I'm bringing to you today. And yeah, got any tips, suggestions? Put them down there in the comment section. Would love to learn more about the barrel lining process. I know it's got to take the gun apart. You got to have a decent milling machine. You got to have the right tools. It's something I'm not going to try to do myself. No way. I'm going to, whichever route I go on the barrel lining, I'm going to send it off to that person, have it professionally done. But I want to make sure that I pick the right barrel liner, and two, it's going to be a long-lasting addition to the rifle. And I would love for it to make it a good on-point shooting rifle. So that's kind of it inside of a nutshell. Now I do have the other 73. We'll talk about it a little bit later. I don't remember quite the bore that it slugged out at. It was, I'm wanting to say between 0.429 to 0.430. I looked around for my slugs. I've had kept them for the longest, but I think when I started casting, I think I chunked them over into my casting pot and melted them down to make bullets. So I may have to re-slug that barrel later on the 130-year-old 73. But on this one right here, here's the one I'm focusing on right now. Like I said, both of them, they shoot exceptionally well at close ranges, 20, 25 yards, maybe even 30 yards. But when you get out there to 50, 60 yards, the bullet starts going cattywampus and not so good. So anyway, that's all I've got today. I will stop talking. Y'all have a great day. Keep your powder dry. Keep your bullets going in the right direction. And we'll see you on down the trail. Y'all take care now. Bye-bye.